Welcome back to another episode of Inside Access Control, sponsored by SIA. Pretty excited today. We have a special guest as well as our guest, which is also special. So Rob Leidick is joining me as we transition to the handoff of Inside Access Control for him to take it over. So Rob, appreciate you making the time to join. So thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Thanks for having me on, and I look forward to recording lots of new Inside Access Control podcasts. Hopefully we'll live up to the lofty expectations and standards that you've set and make keeping it fun, interesting, and bringing on really amazing people to talk.
Well, good luck with that. It's going to be hard to achieve because I am so awesome, but you'll do your best, I'm sure. But no, seriously, no, I appreciate you doing it. I couldn't think of a better person to do that. So enough about us, bathing each other in our glory. Let's get down to who we're here for. So Scott has joined us. Scott, you've been in the industry for a long time. I've known you throughout the years. And excited on the new venture you're going in. But instead of me doing an introduction of who you are, I thought it'd be good. Why don't you introduce yourself, and then we'll talk about Davista AI, who you're with now, and sort of what it's doing, because you walked me through. I've seen the program, got a glimpse of what it can do, and it seems pretty powerful. So without further ado, why don't you introduce yourself and let us know your background, and then we'll jump into the company.
Yeah, good. Appreciate that, Lee. Hey, Rob, welcome aboard. I know I just heard rumors that you were doing something new and different, and certainly excited to see you part of this team. Lee's got a great thing going. So yeah, so welcome. Right. For I guess for those folks that don't know me in the industry, it's now been 30 years. So it doesn't feel like it. The time went fast. I've done many things. I guess it's just kind of interesting. My start was actually with an integrator back here in West Michigan, which is the place I now call home. But over those 30 years, I've had the fortunate opportunity to be part of some really interesting and what I would call disruptive and hopefully, game-changing technologies in the business. So, a lot of folks know me as an access control guy. Spent 12 years at the now JCI Tyco software house. Was part of Software House in its early days and in the very, very early 90s before acquisitions. But, Access Control 101 was kind of my thing. And it ended up evolving from there to try to find ways to let's say, maybe pull ahead or disrupt a little bit, what I would call the conventions of physical access control, and did that with a couple of startup companies. So, Acre now acquired Open Options, which was a startup company that I was the founding president of, working with friends of mine back down in Dallas, Texas. We had a really good run for a while and had an opportunity to leave and go do something different. Was one of the founders that helped bring in the venture capital for Quantum Secure. So for those of you that are not familiar with Quantum Secure, now part of HID, it was the first identity and access management platform for the physical security industry. At the time, creating a brand new industry space, certainly a new acronym that people had to get used to, certainly a new value proposition that that took some time to help customers understand a value proposition and ultimately helping to automate the onboarding, offboarding process of identities and all the other things that go along with PIAM. And then I also spent some time with a really cool company in Central Michigan here called IDV Solutions, now part of Everbridge, a really cool risk visualization platform. And then most recently, I was with Identiv, and Identiv, which is a very interesting publicly traded company, has a portion of their business that focuses on physical security technology. So access control, video, cards, credentials, and readers. They acquired a company out of Vancouver, Canada, that I was the CEO of for 5 years. Just a few years back. So, in that particular case, it was a very disruptive, approach to access control. It had removed access control panels from the architecture. It was defined around software. It was way back when, cloud ready, long before cloud was even a buzzword in our industry. And today, I'm with Davista AI. We are an artificial intelligence platform intended to put AI and the value of AI into the infrastructure of physical security and help security practitioners better understand both the historical things that have gone on in their industry and in their businesses, but more importantly, give them a crystal ball so they can actually, and likely for the first time in their business environments, have a proactive and a prescriptive approach to how they run security. So looking forward to sharing more with you on what we're doing here at Davista.
Yeah, I'd love to jump into that, but before we do, real quick, so I did know your background, but didn't realize all of your background until you just said there. So that's even it's got my motors going on that end. But let me ask you this: so you've made impacts in the industry at a bunch of different stops that you've gone, and I can, if you, all of these things are somewhat tethered together. If you look at the sort of a lot of the companies, especially the ones that have been successful, what would you, as if somebody's watching this that's new to the industry, because we do have a bunch of people that are new to it, like what your success that you've seen, what would you account that to? Is it deep in understanding technology? Are you a people person? You lucky? Like what would you put your success, how you've seen your career go? What would you put your finger on it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I'm not sure I would answer it the same, if I were asked this question again tomorrow, because I'm sure there'd be some deviations. But, what happened a while back, and I won't go into the names, even though a lot of us might remember, I left the industry for 2 years, and I was challenged at that time that, after you've been 5 to 7 years in this industry, you can never leave it. You'll always come back. And what happened when I left was I went into the .com, era. Worked for a really cool technology, web-based products, doing really disruptive things. But what I learned back then was the way to sell technology to an end user was through a well-defined value proposition and understanding the customer's business, what keeps the actual customer of the solution up at night. And when I came back into the physical security industry, I was compelled by both bringing in disruptive technologies because I had a very forward-looking set of experiences dealing with .com technology. Coming back into the security industry, it was obvious that we needed to catch up. And then probably the more valuable part was seeing that technology could actually make a positive impact in the way the customer that we were either developing products for or we were selling products and solutions to could positively impact their business role. Right. So I took on that sort of, perspective that, hey, my job while I'm here is going to be to help our industry, sort of quote unquote evolve. By always keeping an eye on what's going on in let's say the office of the CIO, or in our case, the office of the CISO, finding those technologies that are relevant, and then finding a way to sort of cantilever those technologies being used by your office of the CIO into the physical security domain. And it's had impact. It's brought value. We certainly weren't the first company at Quantum to bring an identity and access management story to the enterprise, right? IAM existed forever in the enterprise. It just never had the physical in front of it when we brought it into the physical security domain. Similarly, with companies like Westar and Open Options, it was taking a different approach to access control, software defining your roadmap, leveraging third-party hardware. I forgot to mention Westar Systems, but that was probably the first access control company actually defining a commercially available product on top of the Mercury hardware. Right, that model by happenstance was also acquired by then at the time Hirsch, now Identiv. But similarly, I always saw that as something that I thought our industry could benefit from, and I enjoy trying to find those things that are next for the physical security domain. Whether it was web, whether it was cloud, IoT, or in today's environment. And just kind of commenting on the conversation we had before we started this, that SIA in their security megatrends has identified artificial intelligence as maybe one of the next big focuses for the physical security domain. I saw that, a couple of years ago. It just took a while for us to get a story together to bring to market.
Yeah, I'll define that as there seems to be a good appetite for curiosity, and then also lack of fear of taking that, having a point of view and driving it. So seeing that you've been on the leading edge, so what you're telling me is I should put my money on the fact that AI now is gonna be the thing, which I 100% agree too. But what I'm when you use these terms like AI, and I've noticed like big data, if you ask anybody, they do these things. They're like, yeah, we need that stuff. But then you like that next step of actually breaking it down into what it actually means is hard for people, I think. So what your company, from what I've seen so far, is a practical approach to what AI can do and the benefits that it can bring. So maybe at this point, can you give us a little bit of background on what you guys have shaken at Davista, and then let's talk about the applications of it to the industry.
Yeah. Well, just real quickly, I think one of the things that helps us establish both our credibility and viability is where we came from. We sort of joke, nowadays and in the past couple of months that we've been operating in stealth mode. Davista's been a AI platform for physical security operations for about 5 years. We didn't become market facing until maybe August of 2020. And what the business initially was founded to do via funding from Department of Homeland Security was help to operationalize those things related to physical security activity and events inside the physical security domain of DHS and its multiple different sub-agencies. So the cool part was we've come to this customer environment, our physical security domain, with a whole lot of momentum, a whole lot of experience in some proven source code. We're now in a space where we think we can help our customers take advantage of all the what I call tactical reactive silos of historical data their systems collect. So if you look at things like access control, video management, incident management, computer automated dispatch, you can kind of continue to create that list of essentially anything that operates in a SOC. It's helping the customer react to things that are going on right now, right? Door forced open, panic duress button, activated, video motion detected on a camera. You can kind of go on down the list. And ultimately what those systems do is they tell the operator sitting in front of a console that it's time to do something because something bad's probably already happened in their environment, right? They go through the dispatching process. They quote unquote, send the officer out to chase down the particular situation. They open a case, they process the case, and hopefully at the end of whatever they've attempted to do, they've reclaimed whatever the potential loss was, or at least they have better perspective on what went on, and they go through the process that the organization might go through to litigate or whatever else. With artificial intelligence and with what we're doing is we're helping the customer leverage all those silos of historical data. So coming out of their access, their video, and we're able to first put a lens on that historical data and give customers that, that term you just used, that BI look at their historical data, right? From business intelligence, essentially you're able to provide an analytics approach to historical data. Right? What's happened in the past? What trends can we identify? Potentially, what anomalies can we identify? What information can we tell the customer about historically in their environment that could better impact their current position to understand security? So that's not necessarily AI. And I think people get confused there, right? The terms BI, analytics sometimes get blended into, what is artificial intelligence. And you're not quite there yet with analytics and BI. So we go to the next phase with our platform, which is out of the historical data by building trends and looking at that historical data to better understand it. We start to provide forecasts, right? So we're taking analytical data and we're just starting to apply what we call the machine learning algorithms of our technology into those data sets, where we can provide a forecast based upon what's happened historically, defined by trends, defined by patterns. We kind of have an idea of what's likely to happen in the next 15 minutes, the next hour, the next day, the next week, the next month. Not quite really to the value add of where AI goes, but it's starting to leverage, which is what we do. We train our algorithms against the historical data. We start to identify patterns. We start to apply our rules and our processes against risk scores that customers might want to leverage. And then ultimately the real value out of the AI is when those algorithms and that machine learning can start to predict. And so we go from that analyze historical data, take that historical data, start to project trends, so a forecast, and then where the real value impact is and where AI can start to predict. What do I do next to circumvent whatever it is I see as the negative, the risk in the environment that I want to try to find some way to remove from my domain? And our AI engine now is in a position where, based upon all that training and all those algorithms that we're working with, we're able now to start to provide a prescription to our customers as to how they change their security processes, their security personnel, their security technology to be ahead of the bad things coming. And hopefully at the end of the day, the week, the month, we've helped them pull all that risk or as much of that risk as possible out of potentially happening in their environment. Hopefully that makes sense, but I always try to break it down because I've had to learn AI differently than I thought I knew it, before, we got started here at Davista. And it's really important to understand that we are way beyond analytics. We are way beyond BI. But analytics and BI are a foundation of ultimately what a really good artificial intelligence platform needs to have to do its job.
So Scott, this sounds wicked smart. And us in the security industry, right? We're used to having our access control over here, having our video over here. And it was revolutionary to actually have them under one platform to begin with. And so now we're talking AI. And I think what a lot of the end users and integrators, they're like, okay, is this inside something else? You keep talking a platform. Is it an additional thing that the customer buys on top of existing systems? And how do they know that work? And I guess my next question after that is, how do people consume it?
Right. Yeah, good question. So what I would tell you today that, we exist because there is an AI inside of what the customers already have. We hear, I've heard lots of conversation coming from the conventional PACS guys, the conventional video guys. If acronyms like PSIM are still, relevant today, I know everybody's kind of, renamed themselves, but we exist because those platforms don't have an AI component in them yet, right? AI is not something you just hatch overnight. It's not like redesigning the next, access control card reader or the next, IP camera. There's a lot that goes into, the domain intelligence, the domain knowledge, the resources required from the people, first of all, to start developing that code set. So in our case, it's another application that sits inside the SOC, inside the security operations environment, and connects to those disparate silos of historical data, as well as the real-time side of some of those systems. So, it can leverage both. In our case, it's software as a service. So, it's a software access tool set where a customer is either going to host it in their environment, host it in our cloud, or we're now working with some of our channel partners who are hosting it inside their own, SOC as a service environment, or they're hosting it inside their own managed services infrastructure. So that's the really cool part. It's applicable and can be deployed in accordance with how the customer wants to deploy it. It's been optimized to perform as a software as a service, platform or subscription license, procurement process.
It's interesting. You mentioned something. I wrote it down. Was that we exist because the platforms don't have it, right? That seems to be now a movement that's happening in software with our industry. That what you're doing, the AI plugs in, but this idea that we're going to continuously use these antiquated systems in the back end that get relegated to basically boxes with relays, and these software systems are going to go on top of them to bring them up, and then I'm guessing then when the boxes that are relays break, we'll add new stuff in that will bring the systems up. Like, it's just an interesting, I don't know what to do with it. It's this is typically how an article gets written, but I'm starting to believe that whether it's you're seeing it from facial recognition technologies to whatever to AI, it's actually probably the way, which I like the model. It makes total sense. And maybe this is normal everywhere else, and this is just we're just now starting to see it. What do you think?
Yeah, but if you look inside what I always compare it to is the commercial enterprise, where things like AI have been in existence for a decade plus. AI has been added to the BI and the huge repositories of data to help every facet of most organizations, right? There's AI platforms and tool sets for sales and marketing, for research and development, for supply chain procurement. You name it. Any place that today has piles of data that can be value add, if you can analyze the data to actually pull the nuggets out of the data, the things that are most important to understand, to be able to proact from. Right. So, again, we're in this domain. It makes sense for us. It happened because, largely in part because our initial foray was via DHS and some funding that we had received to do some things for them, again, in this physical security domain. But, it's opportunistic. It's very opportunistic, and it's likely, a big component of what our industry needs to be doing next. We've got to change our environment from, where we always are, sort of sequestered, a cost center. What is the real value add? Nobody really cares until something bad happens, And then everybody gets a hold of security and tries to find out what already happened. What are you going to do about it? And it's likely there's not much reclamation process involved in those things. And again, for us looking at the AI, well, we think we can start to help the businesses, find themselves ahead of incidents before they happen, which again, if we do a good job at the end of what we're doing with our AI, we're going back and telling the businesses, here's what we've circumvented. And you can tie a dollar amount to this, right? This could be money you can reclaim back into the budget, which ultimately could go into, what needs to happen next with all those underlying systems, right? There's that whole conversation. Maybe AI is a lever that can get us out of some of those very, decade old legacy architectures that ultimately right now there's really no compelling gun to be held to the head of physical security, nor the people approving budgets to make a big change. Right.
Yeah, but this is an 18-wheeler coming, whether they want it to or not. You can either get on board it or get out of the way. So,
I do right on that same page, right? It's sort of like being the last brontosaurus standing out in the, in the wide open pasture, going, "Hey, look at that thing in the sky! It looks like a fireball headed right towards us."
Yeah, choo.
Yep,
it's coming.
But I do think some of these things, cloud, IoT, AI are again, they're things that are going to force our industry to have to pick up the pace of technology evolution.
Yeah, no doubt. And I look forward to being on the right side of history with you. So, Scott, you and I, and Rob, we could talk about this all day long. So, and I appreciate it, and we probably should. But if people want to find out more information about how your system can plug in and add a lot of value, where's the best place to do that?
Yeah, they can start by hitting the website, www.davista.ai. We're continuously building out the website with relevant information that can help, better explain, what AI means for physical security. There's some, some initial white papers. We do have customer results that we're starting to share. And certainly from there, if they want to get a hold of me or any of my other counterparts, they can initiate that contact there. And we're not going away. Hopefully, the people watching this, this podcast are also starting to hear and read and see more about us, in trade publications. We're getting a lot of interest and attention from, some of the more proactive, journalist environments, wanting to have resources better help explain, and tee up, what is AI and what does it mean to the physical security industry?
Absolutely. It's definitely one of the trends. I would even say it's not necessarily a trend. It's a thing that people have to take serious and start getting depth and really get involved in, because it's going to happen to them, or they're going to make it happen. So, well, Scott, thank you very much. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know this is quick, but we get right into it, and then we'll find out some more information and look forward to continuing this conversation on and on. So thank you very much for taking the time. And Rob, thanks for co-piloting. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Lee.
Rob, always a pleasure. Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right, guys. Thank you very much.